Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Yes, you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. We are back. It is a new year. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And in case you're wondering, yes, it is very Enterprise evening because when last you saw me, we were talking about some life hacks, including the fact that I spent $12 to get this hat done. And you know, if you go online, you know, to get an authentic one, it's $45. I did this one for 12, bought the hat, bought the patch separately, and I knew somebody that put it all together for me because, as I mentioned the last time we were all together, I suck at sewing. So, and as you can see, I figured out a new way to do my background a little bit. It looks a little better. The edges are all nice and clean. I'm really excited about that. See what a week off will get you. Hello, domestic. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for joining me. Robert, Happy New Year. Love to see all my favorite people jumping in on my fans. Oh, and the other new thing for the new year is we're on Twitch now too. I am doing a throuple, I guess you could call it, because I am now live on Twitch, I am live on YouTube, and I am live on Facebook. So I'm just all over the cosmos. Hey, Travis, Happy New Year. So glad for all of you guys to be joining me. So happy to see you all. Hope you all had a very safe and happy New Year. Hopefully quiet, hopefully not going out. And if you went out, hopefully you wore a mask. Because I did not go to California. And if I had been in California, you probably wouldn't be seeing me tonight. There's a lot of different reasons I didn't go, but one of the big reasons is they all went onto lockdown again. So as much as I love my friend Randy, I'm not going to sit and spend a week out in California just staring at him because there's absolutely no place else to go. His apartment's great, but it's a little small. Anyway, so here we are once again getting ready to kick off 2021. You guys, while I'm doing the usual housekeeping in the beginning thing, think of what your Star Trek wishes are for 2021, because we're going to be getting to all of those in just a minute. But I'm going to skip around to a couple different fandoms before we get started and delve into Trek 2021. Something that's been bugging me about The Mandalorian, because I loved the season finale of The Mandalorian, but I've been seeing online some people that have been complaining that, oh, well, you know, it's so cheesy. Luke Skywalker's the one that showed up. Hey, Faith, Happy New Year. Of course Luke is the one that showed up. Do people forget that it's only 5 years after Return of the Jedi? Do you forget about Order 66? Ahsoka survived the General Order that killed all the Jedi. But seriously, how many Jedi 5 years later are going to be out there? Luke is probably searching the galaxy to find them. None of them are going to be trained up enough to go after such a powerful baby like Baby Yoda. So of course it was going to be Luke Skywalker. It wasn't just for a nostalgic kick, but if you want to do a Spock and think about it logically, Luke Skywalker was the only one that was going to show up to rescue Baby Yoda. I'm sorry, but it just makes sense. So I just had to get that off my chest. And I am so glad that you are here spotting me, Magic Lasso. Always glad to have you with us. And Faith, I think this is only your second or third show. So Faith, relatively new viewer, and I love that too. So thank you all for being here tonight. The other non-Star Trek thing I want to talk about, and Lasso, I am so glad you're here. Wonder Woman 1984. Who watched it on Christmas Day? Show of hands. I watched it because I had HBO Max, and I wasn't feeling well, and I really wasn't feeling up to go into a theater. They're open here in Jersey, but I didn't really want to go. So I stayed home and watched it on my gorgeous 4K TV. It was worth it. Personal opinion, not as good as the first one. I know that Magic Lasso liked it, and I know he actually, if you head over to Magic Lasso's YouTube channel, you get to see his face for one of the first times. He reviews it, and he's got some very in-depth thoughts about Wonder Woman 84, a lot of which I agree with. I thought it was okay. I wasn't over the moon about it. If you haven't seen it yet, stick around, because you definitely have to stick around for the post-credit scenes, because I will tell you right now, as it stands with my first viewing, the post-credit scene was my favorite scene in the entire thing. So, it was kind of cheesy 80s. It wasn't legit 80s. Like, I don't know. A couple friends and I have talked about it. It was in the 80s and they missed the boat. Sorry, you missed the boat on like an 80s soundtrack. There wasn't any 80s music. And seriously, that's what they really needed, was an 80s soundtrack. So, absolutely see it. Of course, it's DC. It's going to fold into the other movies. There's talk of Patty Jenkins. They've submitted to the studio to do kind of a spin-off, just an Amazon related movie. It's a non-Wonder Woman Amazon related movie. And I think, and Lasso, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it got greenlit, or it's really close to being greenlit. So I'm wondering if maybe that post-credit scene is either about Wonder Woman 3, which has definitely been greenlit, or maybe it's leaning towards the spin-off movie. But definitely the post-credit scene, have to watch. That's all I'm saying. All right, I will say one more thing. There are 3 Easter eggs in reference to the Linda Carter TV show. You have to kind of be a really big fan to catch all 3 of them. Lasso caught 3, I caught 2, so I figured that I was doing pretty well. Let's see, what else? Discovery. Let's get into Trek. Why not? Let's jump right into the Trek thing. This week's the season finale. Last week, okay, let's see what last. It is you really don't think it's leading anywhere? See, I was hoping it might be leading somewhere. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Maybe in another week or 2, we'll talk about it some more. But there's something I really want to say, but I don't want to spoil it, so I can't say it here. Lasso, you and I'll talk later. Okay, Discovery. Season finales this week. Last week, we got to see Kenneth Mitchell. They brought him back. Saul's makeup. And he had such a great role. It was such an intense episode. Stamets was amazing. Fighting for his family. Adira he's basically adopted her. It's official. They are part of the Kugler Stamets, and now it's Adira, and it's amazing. And just the way he wanted to fight for his family. And you got to see Michael do a Vulcan nerve pinch. It's really intense. It was interesting watching those negotiations with Osira and what she was talking about, and the fundamentals of basically mercantiles and capitalism and supply and demand, as opposed to the idealism of the Federation, and how they really did need to merge. And it really would have worked out if she wasn't basically, an overlord underworld kind of character. It would have really worked. Yes, absolutely. I think it's amazing how easily and organically, and again, we all know I am, Faith's new, but if you hang around long enough, Faith, you will hear me say this every few episodes. For me, it's all about the organics of the story, and that things don't feel forced, and that comfort level, and that fatherly advice, role that Paul took with them. Still working on my pronouns. That Paul took with them was absolutely amazing, and just, again, so organic. It just felt right that they came out to him as non-binary, and that their pronouns were they, them, and Paul just went, sure. And it just moved on from there, and it was absolutely amazing. And we're going to actually come back to that with the wishes for 2021. I don't know about you guys. All right, first of all, since Lasso's here, and I don't know how long we're going to have him, one of my wishes for 2021 is that we can get Magic Lasso to watch at least one episode of Star Trek. He has yet to do it. Don't know which one it would be, where I would pull it from. I may not even pull it from Enterprise. Surprise, surprise. I'm just trying to think of one really good episode to try and talk Lasso into watching. Let's see. What do you got to say? Yes, that was really great. He can't even see Gray, but he talks to Gray anyway. I did. You're right. I thought that was great. Pardon the cat butt. Kal-El, stay put. But absolutely agree. We're going to get you to do it. I swear, Lasso, we're going to get you to do it. All right, there's Travis. That's what Travis is suggesting. I'll put it on the list. I'm thinking City on the Edge of Forever. I'm thinking go TOS and go City on the Edge of Forever. But I don't know. I'll put some thought into it. I'll talk to Lasso and I'll see. Definitely nothing from Deep Space Nine. That's just too dark. I think we definitely need to concentrate on other things. But Lasso, I talk Lasso's ear off about my love for Enterprise, so I'm not sure he's ready for Enterprise yet. But we'll try and ease him in. But my biggest wish is that we do get our Strange New Worlds with Anson and Rebecca Romaine and Ethan Peck sooner rather than later. Frakes is touted to direct it, so we know that the direction is going to be good. But my big wish for that show, besides the fact, hurry up and let's get going on this, guys, is that they won't have lost any of the chemistry that they had. I mean, Discovery was amazing, but the focus wasn't on them. So the writing wasn't focused on them. So now it's going to be probably a whole new crop of writers. Can they keep that lightning in a bottle? Can they keep the chemistry going? Can they keep everything that we loved when we saw them in Disco and actually make it work for an entire show where it's just about them? That is my wish, because that's also my concern. Robert, that is awesome. That is just amazing. Hope you liked it, and hope you weren't overly disappointed with the last episode. Yes, your Faith, you're absolutely right. It has too many arcs. So yeah, definitely now we're leaning towards like a TNG, not Voyager. I hate Voyager. Well, not hate. Hate's a strong word. I strongly dislike Voyager. So now we're narrowing it down to probably TNG or TOS. Maybe even sneak in an animated series, because we can't even do like Lower Decks or Disco, because obviously you definitely need the backstory for that. So that's my hope. That's my hope for Strange New Worlds, is that I just hope that they can keep that chemistry going and that the writing's solid enough. No, Travis, no. You know what? I know everybody loves this one. I cannot stand that. So I can't stand that one. And honestly, I think for a first viewing, you shouldn't do an episode that's so focused on one person. And that's definitely a Picard episode. And I think that we got to stay away from that. And like I said, honestly, I always break. I also don't like Blink. That's like a huge Doctor Who thing. Everybody, Blink's so scary, the Weeping Angels. Blink wasn't but it was a Martha episode, and I wasn't a Martha fan, so I think that factored into it. There we go, cause and effect. All right. I'm going to have to go back and look at this chat when we're all done, because I'll put this list together and decide what I think is good. See, look at this, Lasso. Everybody wants you to watch it. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Did not know that. If you think of the plot, let me know, because between me and everybody else in this room, we will tell you the title of the episode. Which one's your favorite show, Robert? If it's Voyager, sorry. Yes, this is true. Anything that was Doctor Who that didn't have David Tennant in it, boo. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I am streaming in 3 different places. So if you're on YouTube, you are just seeing the YouTube comments. Faith has joined us through Facebook, so I'll pop up her comments so everybody can see them. But unless you're on Facebook, you're not going to see them. So it's kind of cool using StreamYard, because I can be in 3 places at once. But when it comes to chatting, it makes it a little difficult for people to communicate with each other if they're not on the same platform. That's amazing, Robert. See, now I would have thought it was DS9, to be honest, just from the Martok thing, but that's awesome. You're on Enterprise and we're in a time loop and didn't know it. They get a little more. Oh, I think it was that TNG. I think it's the TNG episode. Well, I mean, I'm guessing there were a couple time loopy ones, but I bet you it was a TNG episode where Data's the one that had to fix it, which I don't remember the name of, but somebody's going to come up with that. Okay, so moving on. More shows. Section 31. supposedly, I mean, Michelle Yeoh's been talking about it now that she's off of Discovery and she's gone back in the past. Maybe she's becomes one of the founders of Section 31 because they sent her way, way, way in the past. So maybe she's a founder of Section 31. That would be kind of cool. But since last year, there hasn't been a lot of talk. There's no production talk. It's just Michelle saying, I'm not done yet. You haven't seen the last of Georgiou. So hopefully, hopefully the Section 31 thing is going to be happening. Okay, so question for Magic Lasso. Is it where the Enterprise keeps blowing up? All right. Those are two of my top those guys are on my top list. I actually had a chance, all right, non sequitur, since you brought up John Pertwee. I actually talked to Sean Pertwee about his dad at a convention a couple years ago because I found this parallel between Alfred the Butler that Sean did in Gotham and John Pertwee's doctor was that they're both very sophisticated British gentlemen until it comes time to kick ass. And then between the two, and then they were just amazing ass kickers. His dad, John, was the one that came up with his father was a kung fu guy, and he's the one that came up with the karate stuff for the third Doctor. And yes, Faith, it looks like you nailed it. There we go. Lasso, see, we got you. We're going to get you to sit down and watch one from beginning to end, but we got your back here. As you know, if you keep coming in, you know it. Okay, so yeah, so Michelle's been talking about Section 31. There hasn't, it's up on Memory Alpha. It's out. People have been, yip-yapping, but it doesn't seem like anything solid's been happening, at least when I was researching this. It doesn't seem like anything solid's happening quite yet with Section 31. But we all know there's also the kids' cartoon that's coming out on Nickelodeon that Kate Mulgrew is going to be in. Oh, look at that. See? It's also one that was recommended that you see. So, all right, we can check that one off. We can check that one off the list there, Lasso. You've already seen most of Cause and Effect. But one of my concerns is and I don't know, you guys obviously feel free to chime in. Oh, yeah, Travis nailed it too, Cause and Effect. Credit where credit is due. 2 for 2, guys. Yes. Oh, yep. The end of the episode, we see Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer, who's going to be at STLV, which is also on my list of hopes for 2021. But one of my fears is that you're going to spread all these writers. I mean, you've got science fiction writers, but how many do you have that are really solid? Because now you've got all these new Star Treks coming out. Are they going to be sacrificing that quality Star Trek, like what we see with Picard and Discovery and Lower Decks? Are they going to be sacrificing that for quantity because they want to kind of hit all of these bases? Yep, he played Beast. In case anybody didn't know, he played Beast. You know what? That is one thing. Kelsey's a huge Star Trek fan. It's kind of like the old Batman 66. It seems that actors that are fans of the show, all you got to do is be like, hello, I'm a fan. And then on Batman, you got to pop out of a window. Or you got to play a supervillain on the old 66 show. And on Star Trek, it's the same thing. Wasn't Mick Fleetwood an alien? You didn't even see his face. He was one of those aquatic aliens on TNG. So yeah, if you're a huge Star Trek fan and you've got a name like Kelsey Grammer, you just pick up a phone and call somebody, and boom, you get to sit in a captain's chair, and then umpteen years later, they invite you to come sign autographs at a Star Trek convention. There you go. So what else do we have going on for my hopes and fears? All right, let's see. What does Faith have to say? Okay. Well, I mean, I agree. There are a lot of really talented people out there. But really solid, good science fiction writers, and you're going to be asking them, maybe possibly repeating them on different shows, and it's a risk. I feel like it's a risk that they're taking, having all of these shows, even if they only air one series at a time. you run a risk of keeping things fresh and interesting. And listen, I mean, if this works out, we could have an entire year of different Star Trek shows, because if they do run all the seasons back to back, then we could just have something different from CBS All Access 12 months out of the year, which would be freaking amazing. I am not arguing that. But like I said, as long as it's good, and that's where my concern lies. And yeah, I thought he was a fish creature. I'm not even a Fleetwood Mac fan, but that's the one for some reason that always sticks in my head. So as far as public, quote unquote, hopes and fears, I did go out to a bunch of people and ask, mostly my friends in the Lambda Quadrant, because it was easy to just go to them. Yeah, Faith, I definitely think you're going to have to renew your subscription. But Callie, who is one of my mates from Lambda Quadrant, would like to see the LGBTQ representation in Lambda Quadrant go out beyond Discovery, which I think we can all agree would be amazing, and which it looks like started in Picard. Now, is Picard going to pick up the mantle that Annika and Rafi laid down with the handhold at the end, which I also found out from Callie was not scripted. They kind of did that on their own. So now, come here, podcast. So now it's, are they going to pick it up? I mean, I think the fans would like to see it happen. Anything I think that helps humanize Seven of Nine and shows more of her journey to discovering her own humanity, which she did discuss with Picard about halfway through, right before she shot what's her name? See, the Lambda Quadrant has a nickname for her that I know is not the character name, and that's all that's stuck in my head right now. But we want to, I think that would be something that we need to explore as, kind of go along that journey with Seven of Nine. I think that would be really interesting, and hopefully they'll do it, and they'll do it as well as Discovery's been doing it. One of the other hopes and fears that I got from one of my mates over at Lambda, Anna, it's kind of a wish for the fandom, because as we all know, and as Lambda Quadrant did in our Holocon panel, where we're talking about fandom gatekeeping, when we've talked about fandom gatekeeping and how, the old guard tends to look down upon the new guard, and Anna hopes for better relations, and she hopes that, the fandom becomes more welcoming to the people that may have just come into the fandom through Discovery or through Lower Decks, and just welcomes them, because the only way that they're going to try the old stuff and really become I almost said true fan, and that's not right. But the only way they're going to become a fan of the entire franchise is if the people within the fandom already are warm and welcoming and say, hey, you like Discovery? Come on in. And that's really, really, really not happening yet. There's a lot of gatekeeping going on, and a lot of just negativity with people that only like Discovery or only like Picard. And so Anna's wish for 2021 is that the current fandom, just become more welcoming to the new people. And to answer your question, Big Finish, the series that I have checked out, honestly, is just Chase Masterson's series, which is called Vienna, which was supposed to be a one-off villain to Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, but they liked Chase so much that they gave her own series. So I have the pilot for that. Been trying to get a hold of season 1, and it just hasn't happened. Every time I've seen Chase in an event, she never has it. But that's the only one that I've checked out. Hey, look who it is. Hello, Blue Sky, Montana. See, look, I wore the hat so you could see exactly what a $12 NX01 hat looks like. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm not trying to line up new people or really other fans can use it. See, exactly. Well, I mean, that's an excellent question. How many of us are really new, or old or whatever? I mean, people who, a lot of people, you say, well, when did you get into Star Trek? They'll name an episode, they'll name a date, they'll name a year. I can't. Star Trek has literally always been part of my life, probably because my parents and my grandparents enjoyed it. So at some point it was on the TV, at some point in the 70s when I was around. And so I can't pinpoint it. I can tell you what brought me into it was the original series. So when TNG came out, I was so excited. But I can't put my finger on on when I became a fan or what my first episode was. Unlike Doctor Who, I can tell you that it was a David Tennant episode. Can't remember which one, but it was David Tennant. I consider him my first Doctor. But see, that's the thing. I was new to the Doctor Who fandom because I didn't get into it until 2005. Yeah, exactly. So Faith, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that is Anna's wish. So we can kind of get back. Okay. We can kind of get back into what my wishes are. Because of course I have them. Of course, I would love to see the podcast kind of blow up. You guys are here and it's amazing. And I feel my fan base growing every time I turn around. And I think a lot of that has to do with the people I bring on. And I'm looking forward to more collaborations because I feel like, and you know, it's funny because when I had Ryan Husk on a while ago, he and I have talked about podcasts, and I've always felt like the podcast community has been wonderful to me as far as just the people that I've met. And I haven't hit anything with competition yet. In fact, I was just talking to somebody who I met from Beyond Trek Productions, and he wants to collaborate with me on something. He was hopefully going to be here tonight, but I don't know if he's one of those background people that's watching and just not in the chat. If you're here, Dag, hi, shout outs. And I know he's looking forward to doing more productions and more projects in the Star Trek sphere and kind of branching himself out. We both kind of want to see ourselves, you know, kind of warp speed forward into 2021 with all of these amazing people that we've met and all of these amazing Star Trek podcasters. And, you know, of course, that leads me right to the other thing that I want for the year. Let's see. Hold on. Before I get into like the big thing. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, Boomer. There you go. Never let it be said that I don't fill requests. Okay, Boomer. That's awesome though. That is absolutely awesome. I was around. I can say that I was around for just like, I guess, the second coming of Star Trek, because it was the early 70s with the reruns. Listen, sometimes I feel like I might have been born a little late because my first memories of favorite shows were Batman, the Monkees, and Star Trek, all stuff that was on and gone before I was born. But, you know, a scant 10 years later, I was into them. But of course, one of my big goals for 2021 is to get some more special Star Trek guests. I am working on getting a couple. I don't want to name drop right now because I don't know when or how, or I haven't worked out the details. So there are definitely Star Trek alum that I'm talking to or trying to talk to about coming on. But people that I have yet to speak to that would be high on my list, and in case anybody can't guess, Dominic Keating is definitely one of them. John Billingsley would be amazing. I've seen him on so many other podcasts. I talked to him back in 2016, the weekend we met in New York, and he just has so much to say about so many things. He's an amazing conversationalist. That's how I met the guys from Beyond Trek, because they were working with Virtual TrekCon for their 12 days of content, and they did this podcast, and I was like, a video cast, I guess it was a YouTube thing, and I'm like, oh yay, it's John Billingsley, it's Enterprise Day, of course I gotta go watch John Billingsley. I figured an hour, so I think it was like 2.5 hours that he was on, which was absolutely totally fine by me. The one caveat is that if I do get Dominic Keating on, there will be probably a lot of cursing, because as John says, he is probably the most profane person in the Star Trek universe as far as guests, and that's fine by me. If he wants to come on the show and curse every other word, if he's here, don't care. So that's just a warning. But yeah, John Billings is up there. Anthony Montgomery I've actually spoken to. This I can say because he hasn't committed one way or the other. I'm hoping maybe by the time Vegas rolls around again, because that obviously is another thing. Please let Vegas happen. By the time Vegas rolls around again, I'm hoping if Anthony's other projects are taking off, he's in talks to get his graphic novels called Miles Away as a cartoon. It's going to be an animated series, he's hoping. And once all of that's taken care of, and maybe if he's got an air date or stream date or whatever it's going to be, he'll have a reason to kind of come on the podcast, because obviously, as you all know, longtime listeners, and for all my newbies, one of the focuses of this podcast isn't just to sit here and talk to Star Trek people about Star Trek stuff. I love to talk to them about what they're doing currently, so you guys can all, support whatever they're doing now, and as opposed to just watching them in reruns of Enterprise. Gates McFadden, I'm thinking of doing a podcast. If she is, possibly she would consider doing yours as a promotion. That would be awesome. And I actually do have a line to Gates that I haven't cracked the emergency glass on, so to speak. But I do know a way to maybe put that bug in her ear. Whether she'd agree to do it or not, I don't know. I have actually interviewed Gates back when the podcast was an audio thing. The first time I went to Trek Condoroga, I went under the podcast, and I was fortunate enough to be allowed. She was a guest, and she did a little press thing, and everybody that was press that was up there got one question. So we all got to stand in a room, and I recorded the entire thing. So I played the entire thing for everybody, including somebody was a Canadian. They were a Canadian paper, or I'm sorry, a Canadian radio station or podcast, whatever it was. So she answered them completely in French, and I played that, and then I interpreted it for the audience because I pretty much understood the gist of what she was saying. Okay, let's see. I'd love to see and hear all of them as who they are. Can you clarify that for me, War Dog? Because I'm not 100% sure exactly what you mean by that. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow the conversation while I'm yapping. I do try to do. I will tell you this. Okay, so yep. All right, I did put that up. I want to make sure I get everybody. This is the point of the podcast. Is to make you all, you get to talk to me, you get to talk to each other. This is supposed to have that kind of convention-y feel to it, where it's all a bunch of give and take. So, and as I said this at the top of the show, and we're already a half hour in, I would love to hear if you guys have any wishes for Star Trek, whether you wish to be able to go to STLV, that you wish that it would happen, if you wish that they would pick up a guest. They're up to 93 now. And I know a lot of people aren't calling it STLV anymore because technically they lost the license. So it is the 55-year mission, but it is just so much easier to call it STLV. That's the other thing, the 55-year mission, though, it's a tour again. So they're hitting Canada, I want to say Ottawa, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But they're doing Jacksonville, Florida, and my home state of Jersey in the same flippin' weekend. What is up with that creation? You've got 52 weekends to pick. And for some reason, you decided to do Jacksonville and Jersey in the same weekend. And the reason that I am complaining is because all the guests that I would personally want to see are going to be down in Jacksonville instead of here. In fact, the Rat Pack is going to be down in Jacksonville. Not that they've listed that there's going to be a Rat Pack performance, but everybody from the Rat Pack is doing Jacksonville. So I may skip Jersey and just buy a $50 Spirit airline ticket and pop down to Florida. Okay. Yes. No, that is not going to be an issue because, like I said, if Billingsley is on the podcast, and if you check out, I almost don't want to tell you to check out the Beyond Trek one because then you won't want to come and see him here if he ever does make it here. But yeah, Billingsley, if he's on, I think it took them almost the entire 2.5 hours to get around to the Enterprise questions. But I don't have a problem with that, and I will definitely let you all know now. Billingsley is absolutely incredibly liberal, which is fine because so am I. And that's where his views lie. So we would have a lot in common, and I would just let him talk about whatever. But definitely talk about the Hollywood Food Coalition, because he is on the board. That is his charity. Listening to him talk about it, you can tell the passion. And I learned stuff about food waste and everything just from listening to him. So if you want an education in politics, and if you want an education in food charities and how something like the Hollywood Food Coalition works, come to his podcast, assuming that I can get a hold of him and get him to come here and talk. Okay, let's see. Okay. There we go. Yeah. That's like I said, thank you, because that is really what we do. When I had Connor Trenier on back in April, it was to promote this short film that he did called Ben Frankly, which is amazing. It was just him and Robert Picardo. But of course, we talked about Enterprise. We talked about Ben Frankly, and then we actually just ended up talking about acting in general. We had an amazing conversation about acting. That's over on my Spreaker page. If you head over to Spreaker.com and just find the Connor Trenier podcast, we had the most amazing talk. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, there you go. Looking forward to Vegas. That's another thing on my yes, he absolutely does have a fascinating mind. Absolutely. We had a lot of fun chatting during that podcast. Star Trek The Cruise is on my radar. Don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, but like I said, I had a feeling that this year they moved it. It was supposed to be in March, and obviously smartly they canceled it. And well, they didn't cancel it; they bumped it back a year, so it's 2022 now. But since this, of course, how did I forget this? It's perfect. We are technically now in 2021, which is the year of the 20th anniversary of Enterprise. Enterprise aired back in September 2001. So we are now technically in Star Trek Enterprise's 20th anniversary year. Yay. But again, it looks like the 55-year mission isn't allowed to, the 55-year mission doesn't look like they're allowed to celebrate anniversaries, because if you look on the website, there is nothing about making up for the 25th for Voyager or anything about Enterprise's 20th. But I have a feeling the cruise was going to be something about Enterprise's 20th, because they had most of the Enterprise cast that still does conventions listed as cruise mates. So, like I said, the cruise is on my radar. I went on cruise 3. Connor was there. The only full-time Enterprise rep. Connor was there. I did talk to Casey Biggs a little bit about Enterprise. But love hanging out with Connor. Connor's awesome. So, like I said, it's on my radar. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it work. Let's see. Yes, I did actually hear that they are getting a documentary. I believe that was something that was mentioned at some point during Virtual TrekCon's 12 days. And yeah, I understand. It was tough. I mean, it was hi, Mohammed. So glad you could join us. Either way, I mean, it used to be in January, and it was right after break ended. So I would imagine that either way is just a really tough time for teachers, especially because you're just coming off a break, which I'm sure is a bad time to leave. And then March, I would assume there's testing and all that other fun stuff. But what's interesting is this year's cruise, if I'd been able to make it for 2021, was actually over my mom's birthday. So I'm kind of glad that they bumped it, because I am putting this up so if Randy watches, yeah, Randy's not here tonight, but I will give him that message. For anybody that's seen Randy on my show, and of course he is going to be back at some point in 2021 because I'll bug him. Yeah, he's got these kitty cat ear headphones. And again, maybe I could have been doing the podcast from LA and we could have done it together. Oh, well, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. Substitute teachers for, yeah. And they lengthened the cruise. It went from 5 to 7 days. So, but yeah, so this year would have been over my mom's birthday. Luckily next year, if we go next year, it's not. So there's that argument out the window. Not that I wouldn't have missed her birthday. I would just get her something really nice and be like, I'll see you when I come back. You'll get 2 dinners. Go to dinner with the family now, and then when I come back, I'll make it up to you and take you out for another dinner. There you go. Done. Where are my wishes? Does Muhammad have any wishes that he wants to see for Star Trek 2021? Because that's what this is all about. I'm just so excited. I can't believe it took me 4 days to realize that we're now in Enterprise's 20th anniversary year. We haven't heard anything about the new company, which I'm not sure who it is, but there is a new company that did get the license to do a Star Trek convention. I would love it if it would happen in this year, but maybe they're kind of holding back just because they. But by the same token, I understand you don't want to have your inaugural Star Trek convention during when we don't know exactly where COVID's going. So I kind of would understand if they didn't do an inaugural Trek convention until 2022. It would just suck because once again, Star Trek Enterprise being treated like the bastard stepchild that it was back when it was new on the scene 20 years ago. They're going to lose out. They may lose out on their anniversary stuff. Okay, let's see what Muhammad said. Happy. Yep, exactly. I completely agree. Looking forward to seeing people at STLV. I can tell you Lambda Quadrant is planning on being there. So if you want to find me, either look wherever there's Enterprise stuff going on, like Enterprise Karaoke, or B, I will be working with Lambda Quadrant. So, let's see what Faith has to say. Okay. With Trek and other shows that theirs tend to be some of my favorite episodes. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, when you get the Trek alum, when you get the Trek alum, obviously they have a very special connection to what it is they're doing, and their vision for the show is pretty spot on. So I can absolutely understand that. But what about Jonathan Frakes? What about LeVar Burton? I mean, they're all amazing directors. Although Roxanne did do that one episode of Enterprise with the squiddy monster that I can never, again, I don't know titles. It's that squid monster that snagged the captain and Trip. Roxanne did do that episode. Let's see. What else Faith got? Okay, there you go. All right, that's what Travis is wishing for. Bastards at DS9 and Enterprise with ENT getting worse kicks. Yeah, because you know what? I think more people came into DS9 before it even ended, I think, or maybe just after it ended. I think DS9 ended up getting more love sooner than Enterprise. Thank you, Travis. Boxala, there you go. That's the episode Roxanne Dawson directed. I believe the Blu-rays got some behind the scenes. Yeah, the Blu-rays got some behind the scenes stuff. So where was I? Yeah, I think Enterprise spent longer being the bastard stepchild than DS9 did. Let's see. Faith. Non-Trek shows I've seen the director rate. Well, this is true too. Jonathan Frakes. When I bumped into him on the cruise, he has said he is definitely way more comfortable behind the camera. Obviously he did the in front of the camera stuff for Picard. That goes without saying, but in general, he has said he loves being behind the camera. Oh yeah, Frakes and I, fellow Penn State alum, just saying. Yeah, I definitely think though that if you're a Star Trek alum, there's going to be a little bit extra zhuzh when you're directing a Star Trek. But you're right. I mean, Criminal Minds, Jonathan Frakes. I've seen Jonathan Frakes. The one, it just stands out because I remember watching the credits roll in the beginning. I went, Frakes, whoa, because I love Criminal Minds, which Connor did an episode of Criminal Minds. I just don't remember what it was. Connor and the late Luke Perry were in a really good episode of Criminal Minds. Let's see, what has Travis got for us? Oh, did she? Okay, that I didn't know. Love you guys and the trivia that you provide. Dead Stop. That was the one. I can tell. This is what I know about Dead Stop. It's the episode after Minefield, which is one of my favorites. And it's creepy. And some of the novels actually picked up on that whole automated space station thing. And it's actually a novel I have yet to finish because it's so poorly written. But it actually kind of picks up from that whole experience and Travis having PTSD about being connected to the computer system. It was an interesting premise. I liked the idea of the novel, and I liked the story in general. I just didn't like the way it was written. And I think I've said this before. The Trip into Paul thing. I just don't like the way some of the writers are handling the Trip into Paul romance. And again, it just has to do with the quality of their writing. In my humble opinion, I just don't like the writing for some of them. See, look, Travis, you really are a man after my own heart. Minefield was really good. I will tell you that one of the reasons I liked Minefield, I just thought it was so cute how uncomfortable Malcolm was going to have breakfast with the captain. And then the whole thing about all that self-sacrificing stuff, and you find out about his aquaphobia when he's basically pinned to the hull. And I just remember the first time that I watched it back when it aired originally. And you find out that this whole thing was set up, spoiler alert, by the Romulans, and you're like, oh, Romulans. And I loved how they introduced the Romulans. Speaking of introducing other Star Trek people in Enterprise or other Star Trek known aliens, Billingsley actually said in that podcast how he thought that Resurrection is the episode that killed the franchise. He thought the Borg episode was terrible, even though his wife was in it. I loved that episode. Because I've always said Enterprise was basically the sequel to First Contact. And if you're going to do a sequel to First Contact, to have a Borg show up that might have gotten literally like blown into the ice, a la Captain America, and buried for however many years. I just thought it was great. I thought it made sense. I thought it was neat. And again, with the same way that they introduced the Ferengi in Acquisition, they never really said who they were. So it could follow that the logs didn't reflect it, that as in why the future wouldn't necessarily know about the Ferengi. Well, because Archer didn't know they were Ferengi. So see, it was an awesome episode. And what's really funny, another funny Enterprise story that I can share. While the rest of you are thinking about what you want to see for 2021, I haven't mentioned that already. But another funny thing, I didn't realize who John Billingsley was married to until I met him in 2016, and he told me he was married to Bonnie Federico, who I loved in Chuck. She was in the TV show Chuck, and I loved her in Chuck. It's the first thing I ever saw her in. And then, so I'm doing my rewatch of Enterprise, and the first time that I hit Resurrection, I went, oh, okay, Bonnie's in this. That's pretty stinking cool. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Bonnie last year at STLV. She was there with John, and I said hi to John, and I asked him how his wife was, and he's like, she's right here. And I'm like, oh, so stop talking to John Billingsley. I actually had a very lovely conversation with Bonnie. They're two incredibly lovely, funny, wonderful people. If you ever have a chance to go to STLV, this is what I will tell you. John Billingsley is one of the guests that Creation has the whole specific day and time for his autographs. So he doesn't sit in the vendor's room. But I will tell you this. He wanders around the freaking floor. So if you've ever wanted to have a conversation with John Billingsley, if you go to STLV and just wander around, just look for him, because there's a really good chance you're going to find him, because that's what he does. He's so personable. And if you ask him about politics or the Hollywood Food Coalition, you will have his full attention, and you'll be able to actually have a really nice chat with him. It's a good Borg episode, though. It's really, really interesting. So yeah, give it a rewatch. I highly recommend it. Let's see. Hoshi and Travis, I will say, are probably rated as the two most underused characters. They never really developed either of their stories. I thought Hoshi was way more interesting in the Mirror Universe, to be honest. And I would have loved for them to have drawn a direct line between Hoshi and Emperor Georgiou. I thought they were going to when she rattled off her full name, but they never really drew any sort of direct line. There's just been a lot of supposition that if Hoshi was the Emperor in the time of Enterprise, then it would stand to reason that her lineage may have continued, and Georgiou would have been a descendant. It's not too far out, far down the timeline to not consider that as a really solid possibility. But they've never said, maybe if they do Section 31, we'll get a better feel for that. Two overs. That would be lovely. I don't know if anybody here follows any of the Enterprise Facebook pages, but a lot of people have talked about, obviously after 20 years, people change, but hey, why don't we get an Enterprise animated series? That would be kind of cool to do an Enterprise animated series, if they could get the entire cast back. But I'm not sure you could get Jolene. Not sure. But then again, you know, if Trip really is gone and off on Section 31, maybe T'Pol left Starfleet too. Yeah, exactly. Travis and Hoshi were the two that most underutilized characters. They never really developed them. I mean, you know, Travis went home, and then in the 4th season when they were back on Earth, you found out that he had this girlfriend. But yeah, they were really late on the track. Although I did like 2 Days and 2 Nights, the Risa episode. Hoshi at least had you know, a fun little storyline. I always thought the irony of 2 Days and 7 Nights, or 2 Days and 2 Nights, was that Hoshi was the one like, I'm not going to the Pleasure Planet to do anything more than learn the language and relax and you know, do things that, you know, something I've been relying too much on the universal translator. I want to go and learn languages the old-fashioned way and be a linguist. And everybody else was like, we want to score. Well, we all know that Malcolm and Trip ended up tied up in a cellar. The captain ended up with that whole thing with the girl and the whole thing with the Suliban. But she's the only one that scored, and she was the only one that wasn't interested in it. Just proving that old adage, you know, when you're not looking for something, when you'll find it. She's the only one that had a liaison on the planet, which I thought was really a lovely little piece of irony. But the whole thing with Trip and Malcolm and the bar and getting rolled, I thought was really, 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 really good. Yeah, Exile, that, yeah, I don't know. She annoyed me in that episode. Sorry. Her character, and I've seen Linda in other things, and again, this isn't a reflection on Linda, because every actor plays with what they're given. So again, I don't understand people that go after actors when they don't like a character that they've played. If you really have a problem with a character, then go talk to the writers and the directors. Don't yell at the actors, because the actors can only work with what they're given. And Hoshi wasn't the best written character either. Her lines, her demeanor, just, you know, there was just something about her. And again, no reflection on Linda. I think Linda's a wonderful actress. Just, there was something about Hoshi that just never really sat right. I liked her. Like I said, the writing in a Mirror Darkly, she kicked ass in a Mirror Darkly. I thought that was her best performance out of all 4 years. And then I just thought it was I thought 2 Days and 2 Nights was fun. But any other time I saw her, it wasn't written well. It wasn't grabbing me. And that, again, because I've seen her do amazing stuff in Enterprise, but then I've seen her annoy me, I tend to lean more towards directors and writers when things like that happen. Because like I said, I just think In a Mirror Darkly ranks up there in my top 5 Enterprise episodes. So, yeah, see, there you go. They really didn't give her good stories, and they didn't give her good dialogue. And the whole space sickness thing kind of went on a little long. So, yeah, they just, like I said, she got shortchanged. She definitely got shortchanged. Anthony got shortchanged. And Anthony is such an incredible talent. He's a musician. He's a writer. He's a great actor. I don't know if he's still on General Hospital, but they had him back on General Hospital for a little while. I do not watch General Hospital. I was working at a restaurant last year, and they used to have it set. The TVs were set on GH, and I actually caught him a couple times just because it happened to be on. But outside of that, I don't know what happened to his character. But I mean, he's great. He's just everywhere. He's always got like a million things going on. So again, he and Linda just got really shortchanged with Enterprise. But he's also definitely somebody, if you go to STLV, that's worth talking to. He's amazing. Ask him about other things. He's got so much else going on with Miles Away and his music. So definitely somebody to go talk to. He also usually brings really cool shit. He was selling one of the undershirts he wore on the show, scripts. He brought some scripts that he got Dominic and Connor to autograph, so you could get you can get a really amazing script autographed by the three of them. Plus, if you get their, I don't know what I can't speak to what they're going to be charging this year, but when I went in 2019, it was $60 for a picture with Anthony and Connor and Dominic, and me and my friend split it, so $30 each, and we got this amazing picture with the three of them. So definitely worth it. So what's my buddy saying? One of Georgie's names was, which is Japanese in Latin. Oh, there you go. Yeah, see, again, I think, say what you want about Hoshi in general or Enterprise in general. Her performance in those 2 episodes was just fantastic. And I know that a lot of people take issue with the sexuality of the Mirror Universe. The women wearing, if you've seen the Enterprise uniforms, and I've said, if I can get this body fit enough, and if I was going to do cosplay, I would get somebody to make me a Mirror Universe costume, because instead of these boring jumpsuits, the women had the midriffs. So it was a crop top and then pants. But you know what? Sex is power. And if that's what, and they weren't slaves. They could do as they pleased for the most part. So I didn't have a problem with the women using their sexuality because it was their choice. So, and that's what I've always looked at, is as long as it's your choice, then it's your choice. Yeah, see, that's what, daughter or granddaughter, I suck it. I mean, let's do the math. If Enterprise was supposed to be about 100 years before TOS. So yeah, you're looking at 90 years between, give or take, 80 or 90 years between Hoshi taking over and Discovery. So I would be more inclined to say granddaughter than daughter. But like I said, it's really close. The lineage is really close, that it would absolutely be acceptable for but again, I mean, there's a lot of coups too. As we saw, Hoshi declared herself Empress just because she had the Defiant. So it's entirely possible that she got overthrown 2 days later. We don't know. But again, it would have just been a really nice tie-in. Because, and I've said this before, one of the things I absolutely loved about Discovery was the only straight line that you could draw to any other show that came before it was Enterprise, because Discovery predates everything else except Pike. So they were able to bring Pike in, which was amazing. I don't have a problem with that. I loved Anson Mount. Thought Pike was great. Chris Hunter is going to be on this podcast at some point in 2021. Chris is great. I was hoping to have him on when I knew more about Strange New Worlds, so we could talk about his dad, Jeff, who originated the role of Pike, but that's not going to happen at this point. Strange New Worlds is going to happen, but since I don't have any sort of solid date, I may invite Chris to come on just to talk about more just general Star Trek stuff. But that's what I always loved about Discovery, is that the only references that they could truly, really, really make were to Enterprise. Well, now they jumped so far in the future, they can reference everything, and they were talking about self-stealing stem bolts, and they showed old TNG phasers when they were going through that junkyard. So, yeah, I'm a little annoyed now that they have all of the rest of the Star Trek to pick from, because I was always cool that Enterprise was pretty much the only thing that they could do. And then that big speech at the end of the first season about Archer and the NX-01, I was like, yes, had to wait the entire season for something really, really concrete. The same way, again, I had to sit through 5 episodes of Lower Decks before they decided to turn around and reference Enterprise. But again, all right. So if nobody else has anything to contribute, I mean, I know what we all wish. I think we all wish for conventions to start being in person again, whether it's Vegas or whether one of the local ones works better for you, whether the new company that has it will announce a convention in the future. Okay. See, and TOS. See, so she could have been overthrown, or she could have gotten married, or something, or we don't know. So, I mean, now they'll, if they really wanted to, they'd figure out a way to work around that. But you're right, Robert. Absolutely. But I think we all wish that we can all start stepping out and getting back to a relatively normal life that includes in-person conventions so that we can all see each other. And like I said, I hope you guys out there can make it to Vegas, because I would really love to meet all of you in person. I know my buddies from Lambda Quadrant are looking forward to it. And like I said, come see me at Lambda Quadrant. Come see me at Enterprise Karaoke, because I will definitely be there. Hopefully singing the theme. So anyway, but see, that's the thing. To answer that question again, the timing doesn't work out, because if Hoshi takes over, no, maybe. No, if Hoshi takes over, Grant again, yeah, maybe. Good point, Faith. Good point. Yeah, because there's that 100-year, there's that 80-year gap. So yeah, you might be right. Lasso, if you get your butt out to Vegas, I promise I will hang out with you. I hope you were around when I made that Captain America comment, because that was sort of aimed at you earlier when I was talking about the Borg getting frozen. But yeah, Lasso, I would love to meet you too. And again, just because I love Magic Lasso, if you are a comic book fan, or you just want to check out his very insightful review of Wonder Woman 84, if you aren't subscribing to this channel yet, why the heck not? And you know what? You can subscribe to more than one channel. Subscribe to me. Go over and subscribe to subscribe to Magic Lasso over on his channel. Excellent point, Faith. Thank you so much, guys. As always, thank you for hanging out with me. I loved having you here. I will be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, as always, please make sure that you live long and prosper.
Hey, this is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX7062 podcast with Stephanie. Enjoy your evening.